Welcome back here to Le Mans, where we are live, as you well know, and we'll be going through till the end of this race, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, our time here, whatever time that is, with you in North America. And at the moment, Audis are still very, very firmly in the lead, first, second and third, and the all-important GTS category is being led by the Chrysler Vipers. They are 9th, 10th and now 11th overall, running like steam trains with no problems. In fact, I have to say, I think the Chrysler's performance here very impressive, Andrew, don't you think?
Certainly do, but we've got a Cadillac coming in, and it looks as if it's going to go right into the garage there. They have had various problems, of course, with that car, and that car currently in 12th position on 211 laps. Meanwhile, we've got smoking brakes here from the Viper, but
yes,
there's a long way to go in this race yet.
That's the same problem that the others had, actually. I think it's fairly normal. They are cooking their brakes somewhat. They've obviously been having trouble there. The brakes, I think, are aerating, and they're cooking them. There's a bit of a fluid leak. That gun you saw coming in there was measuring the temperature of the disc from the brake experts, so they'll take the wheel off. Now they've got the fuel in. Oh, they're not actually troubling to bleed, these brakes. Look, he's put the wheel straight on there.
Yeah, these Vipers, of course, have been dominating the American Le Mans Series, apart from their Daytona 24-hour win, and, of course, also they won at Sebring. These cars certainly look good. Let's talk to some American drivers about it.
American interest in sports car racing is becoming way improved. I think Don Panoz has a tremendous amount of responsibility for that interest. With the American Le Mans Series, obviously the Le Mans connection there with America, they understand American, they understand Le Mans is a race in Europe, and it's a very big race. The American Le Mans Series now with a big television package involved with it is just a major deal.
I think it's a sign that, you know, people in America are becoming more aware of Le Mans and what we're doing in sports cars, and I think that's a good thing. What do I attribute it to? Well, I think, you know, the fact that you see GM having a big presence over here just represents that maybe some of the American companies are seeing the importance worldwide of this race and how it can be used as a marketing tool for them. And then, of course, you know, I think you got to tip your hat to my boss, Don Panoz, for, you know, incorporating the word Le Mans in the sports car series over there. We're calling it the American Le Mans Series because it does bring awareness to this race and to how great an event it is.
I think Don Panoz is doing an amazing job in promoting sports car racing. I don't think anybody's done it as well as he has, and is continuing to do it. The European Le Mans Series slash American Le Mans Series, yeah, I think you're seeing a bit of a crossover from the ELMS, they call it, and the ALMS and the entries with Le Mans. I just think the whole sports car resurgence has got a lot to do with Don Panoz and his incredible effort.
I wholeheartedly agree with those three guys. I think that what's going on in the ALMS and the LMS is the healthiest thing that's happened to sports car racing for years. Way back in the 60s and the 70s when I was racing, we could take our European cars to America and Americans could bring their cars over here. Then it all stopped. Now it's all started again, and of course that is very much indeed to do with Don Panoz. And speaking of American cars, Steve, I think you've gone down there with the Cadillac.
Absolutely, and by the way, I totally agree on your assessment of the American Le Mans Series. The best thing to happen to North American sports car racing in a long time. It's starting to sound redundant, but there's more transmission problems, this time for the #2 Cadillac, powered by the North Star system twin turbocharged motor. The motor's fine. Motor's been fine all day, apparently, but another gearbox. If you ask any of these teams, they'll tell you that is the weak link. When is somebody going to come up with a kryptonite transmission, Alan?
Well, that's the problem. Of course, they do have problems with that transmission, but at least they now know what the Achilles heel is for that car, and they can do something about redesigning it for next year. One thing we know for sure, Cadillac will be back here next year, and they have done so well getting as far as they've got. And one thing I can assure you is if things go the way they are at the moment, we will see at least one Cadillac at the finish of this race. That is no mean achievement. We'll be back. We were talking about Cadillacs before the break, and whilst we had a break, the #3 DAMS Cadillac came into the pits for an immaculate stop. Collard has left at the wheel. It was a pretty routine stop. They put the fuel in, checked everything out, and sent the car on its way. And I think DAMS are doing the best job possible for Cadillac. This car's lying 4th. It's on 229 laps that it's completed, as opposed to the leaders' 237 laps. So they're still in contention. I can't see this car catching the Audis, but if one of those cars breaks down, then of course things will change.
Alan, we just saw the Sky racing car going out of the pits. That's the Porsche, the Molen Murray and Masson one, the 3Ms, and that has now moved into 4th place. Remember, after David Murray hit the Armco early on in the race, he was right down in 10th or 11th place in that category, so that really has had a very good drive. But
it caught up nicely, yeah. It just shows at Le Mans here, even though you have actually had a major off and clouted something and bent your machine, you can put it all back together and get stuck in and catch up.
But they had a special Le Mans rear wing which was working really nicely for them. That was damaged in the crash. That's in the scrap bin now, and drivers were telling me it's much harder to drive now with the old wing that they use on a normal circuit, so they're having to work quite hard, but it's doing well for them.
Well, there's a moral there for them. Next time they come, they better bring a spare. You wouldn't catch old Yost or any of these other professionals turning up here without spares.
No, well, this is a brand new team from Australia that's been put together by basically some people who are used to Australian club racing with some Americans and some British people. Dave Pruitt, you know, who ran a lot of cars here, is involved with that particular team, so they're still on the learning curve. But there is that Courage, the Pescarolo green car. That is still going very well. That's in 5th place with 222 laps. That's the C52, the slightly older car. And that's built just inside the circuit here, Alan.
Yes, it is.
But also, you know, the main sponsor of that car is the local region here.
Yes,
government money going to motor racing, that's what we need.
That is a long-term sponsor of Yves Courage. It's the Département de la Sarthe, and that, in fact, is the local county council, if you wish. You can just see that happening in England or even in America, where your local county council put money into your motor racing.
And not only that, as you drive into Le Mans, there's great big posters of the car as well, and they're promoting the local area. There is one of those WRs, and that's the same outfit, you know, that originally produced those Peugeot engine turbocharged. All they wanted to do was be the fastest on the straight. That guy...
And they were.
406 kilometers an hour.
Outrageous, these things. They used to come here purely to drag everybody down the straight. I think the all-time outright record on the old straight was, as you say, way over 400 kilometers an hour.
I think it was 406. I think they just knew it was going to blow. They just wound the turbo right up. They just wanted to be the fastest. I don't think there was a prize for it.
Yeah. Well, here's the leader in the pits. It's car number 8. It's the lead Audi. And Biela's getting into the car, and I hope it's just a routine pit stop. You can see the fueler there bent over with his fuel nozzle firmly stuck in the car. They'll be poised to have this car up on the jacks and change wheels and tires if it's deemed necessary. The tyre technicians will have had a good look round there and will already have told them what to do, change or not change. Is it going up in the air, this car? Yes, it is, so they're having a change. Oh, they've got a rotor there as well, just in case. That's a carbon fibre disc. They may even be doing that as well. In fact, they are. I think they're going to change rotors. Oh, you see the steam coming off his gloves there? Oh, hot air, rather.
Oh, I think that was smoke. I think his gloves were burning there.
Yes.
Yeah, those carbon fibre rotors coming off.
These guys do suffer, that's for sure. They take all kinds of pain doing this job.
Those things are very expensive, too.
Yes. Here's the second place car, number 9. It's actually officially 2 laps behind the leader, but in fact that may be more like 1.5 laps.
That's right. Now action here in the Corvette pit. They're just completing their fuel stop. Are they going to put tyres on?
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, the screen is being cleaned. Frank Frion is doing well in that car also. Races a lot, of course, in the States. I think he's raced in Indy Lights in the past. And it might be nice to grab a few words with him. There's that BMW.
Yes.
That car, you know, that's the car they came here the first year with, 2 years ago.
98.
Designed by John Russell at Williams, Grand Prix Engineering. And you remember that car in practice wasn't that quick, and then in the race it was leading, but very early on they had bearing problems with the front upright, so they withdrew the car.
That's right. Well, in fact, a friend of mine bought that car, Thomas Boucher, used to race with us in the vintage stuff. He was a kind of Maserati driver, and I have to say, he wasn't really very good as a vintage driver, but he then really got the bit between his teeth. He went down the gym and got fit. He started running push-ups, press-ups, I don't know what, and he has driven some magnificent races and has proven himself here very well. He's equally as quick as Jeff Lees, that old warrior who's been racing for many years and is no slouch.
Yeah, so, it is nice to see Jeff back because he hasn't raced for a year or so. There is Frank Biela. He lives in Monaco like so many different racing drivers, Alan, and really is a saloon car man.
Yeah, departing in the lead car. And Steve, I think you may have something to say about this.
Well, actually, yeah, as far as the P class is concerned, consider this. We still got, what, 8 hours to go in this race? Something like that. And if that number 3 Cadillac continues to run as steady as it is, if there's any attrition between his position and the front of the pack, that car could get a podium finish. How big an hand do you think Cadillac would buy in USA Today if that happened?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. That's what they're here for. It's a very, very brave move by Cadillac, and I think, in my own personal opinion, very much the right thing to do. They create a great image and an aura about their cars, and it must uplift their road-going product, which, by the way, is no slouch anyway. We've seen it as a pace car here, and it was cruising around. I think Oliver Gavin was driving it, and he was going like a rocket.
Yeah, fast forward a year. Cadillac are here. Audi have won this race. They are continuing in the ALMS. I'm not making this up. This is what a German journalist tells me. If they win this race, they aren't going to come and defend the title, just like BMW haven't defended their title. So Cadillac might be very well placed to win this race next year.
Well, they could be, and I mean, all credit to them as well, because if you put your money where your mouth is and you turn up, and let's face it, Cadillac have got a very, very good basic design, and it's got plenty of development in it. And what they also have, obviously, is a sufficient budget and sufficient enthusiasm to inject into the project to make it work. And I think for their first year out, they've done very, very well indeed.
The Le Mans race continues. It is 7:40 here in France, and Audis continue to lead. They are first, they are second, they are third. The Cadillac is fourth, the Courage is fifth.
Up next for the BF Goodrich Tars Trans Am Series is Detroit's Raceway at Belle Isle, and round 5 of the championship. Brian Simo looks to extend his point lead over Paul Gentilozzi, who's seeking his first win of the season in front of his hometown fans. Coverage begins Monday, June the 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Speed Vision.
Yeah, Alan, it's interesting that they've got some different makes in that championship. Well, I think there's a Jaguar now, isn't there? There's a Data Master. I think they're probably just the usual old space range with different bodies on. But I saw those cars at Sebring. Really good racing.
That's right. It's taken off very well indeed. We see here a very interested fan. You often get these sort of people turning up at Le Mans here, very interested in the racing.
Gobsmacked to me, actually. Well, more work going on. These mechanics have been up, of course, since probably 6 o'clock yesterday morning. And it's amazing how the adrenaline just keeps them going. But now we're out on the circuit, and we see this Viper sweeping through here. They've changed the colour schemes quite a lot over the years. Currently, they're running red with the 2 white stripes, but of course, we have seen quite a lot of other colours on them over the years with red, white and blue whirly stripes. I think they were last year.
You know, I was just thinking, actually, Andrew, Le Mans really does bring out the very, very best in people. Not just the drivers, but all the crews. When we look at the way that the crews work in the workshops, it's quite amazing. I mean, the actual workload they get through and how quickly they get through it has always amazed me. There's something about this race that just causes people to do their very, very best. Guy, I think you've got something on Tars for us, is that right?
Well, Alan, as we know, it's a big battle between manufacturers on the track, but of course also involved in this big battle are the tyre companies, because they want to have big ads in the paper saying they won Le Mans, the 24-hour. This weekend we have 5 tyre manufacturers represented, including Dunlop, Goodyear, Michelin, Pirelli, and there is one more which I'm forgetting, unfortunately, right there. But Dunlop have won this race the most times, 34 times. Michelin, of course, are the defending champions. They won it in 1999, and Pirelli, they've won it once, but that was all the way back in your time, Alan, 1954.
1954, yes, well, of course, I remember it very well. In fact, Michelin have come here, someone told me, with 4,500 tires for their 23 runners. They've got something like 47 technicians here, and of course spare fitters. Because this is a 24-hour race, you can't ask some poor devil to stay awake for 24 hours changing tires. You can do about 2 or 3 hours of that, then you conk out. You have got to have a rest. But just like the drivers, just like the mechanics, this race does bring out the very, very best in all the technicians here too. The guys looking after your brakes, the guys looking after your tires, all work incredibly hard, and everyone's on extra shifts. There's spare people that can take your place.
And we're on the Mulsanne straight here, the road which leads to Tours from Le Mans. This is a public road, as we've said many times before, all part of this tricky racetrack. 2 of the chicanes. This is one of the places, Alan, where they come back, of course, across the ripples, because normally the cars and the trucks just go straight on through there. They put those on to slow the cars. And then the famous hump, they're going to chisel it away, they say, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
I do too, and more about that later. This is, of course, the Class GTS leading Viper, which has done 218 laps, but the Audi that's leading the race has done 239 laps. That's car number 8. Car number 9 is 2 minutes and 38 seconds behind it on the same lap, and car number 7 that's third is 238 laps. And then our Cadillac is on 232 laps. That's the DAMS Cadillac number 3. So although they are not able to catch the Audis up, they're still in contention, they're still hanging in there, which is a great, great effort.
Yeah, just to clarify that, the gap between the third Audi and the first Cadillac is 6 laps, so that's like 24 minutes worth of racing in effect. But nevertheless, yeah, those Audis could falter yet. You know, we've seen it before. I think Toyota were in this strong position last year. This time, well, 12 months ago.
Before.
Yep.
It happened to Toyota last year and, of course, the year before when they had all the gearbox problems. Don't forget at Daytona, though, it was one of these Vipers that came through to get the overall win. I know there wasn't the major factory turnout there, but nonetheless, a GTS car did come through and actually win that race. And what was second, 30 seconds behind it? Corvette. I think that's one of the most remarkable achievements in motorsport for a Virgin car to come straight out of its box and finish that very, very grueling 24-hour race at Daytona. Only 30 seconds behind the GTS favourites.
Yeah, well, the best GTS car at the moment is, of course, the 51 car in 9th place. Now we've got 3 Panoses running together. We haven't talked that much about the Japanese Panoses because they are the second-string cars, but they are now 6th and 8th, and they're sandwiching the number 12 car. And that, of course, has also got a Japanese driver in Hiroshi Kato, who raced in Formula Nippon in Japan last year. In fact, he was Ralph Furman's teammate driving the G-Force car. And, of course, he's with Johnny O'Connell and another man I don't think we've spoken to in this race yet. And I'd love to because he is so enthusiastic. That's Pierre-Henri Raffanel. What a lovely name.
Yes, I drove with him. He was my co-driver here some years ago. And I thought I was quite useful around here, but I'm afraid he eclipsed me because he was a current Formula 3000 driver at the time. And if you are a current happening Formula 3000 man and you come here, I'm afraid you do put us old vintage warriors to shame. But although it wasn't that bad, we got a result.
Talking about vintage, I think he's actually moved into the vineyard business as Pierre-Henri. I don't know what his best cuvée is.
Well, if he makes wine the way he drives, it'll be a tasty drop, and I think we should possibly lay on for a case of that and maybe even start one in the booth here while we're about it.
Oh, I don't think we should do that. Well, when we come back, we're going to show you some of the images from this morning's racing, but meanwhile, it is still the Audis. Those images will have a lot of Audis. Audis first, second and third. The Cadillac is in 4th place. The Garage is 5th here at Le Mans.
Oh, wow, those were the most lovely, lovely scenes. For me, that is also what Le Mans is all about. It's coming here to see some great motor racing, but it's also coming here to experience a piece of life that you just cannot get anywhere else in the world. That is what makes Le Mans so special. That's what makes so many tens of thousands of people come here to experience just the sheer joy of being here, no matter how fatigued you are. And I think, Steve, talking about fatigue, you may be able to show us a little more.
Well, this is not only an endurance race for cars, but also crews. Check out this tired crew for the number 73 Porsche. I mean, they are just beat, whipped, gone. And, you know, it reminds me that this is probably only the 3rd time in 30 years that I've intentionally stayed up all night. Once was at a crap table in Reno when I was up $2 grand and should have gone to bed. The second time was the birth of my son, Cameron, at about 5:30 in the morning. And most recently, an Eldora sprint car race that just refused to die. Bless you, my children. May you nap well.
They sure are napping well. Guy, I think you've also got something to show us too.
Well, yes, we're in the Corvette pit. The 63 car has just made a stop. 64 is waiting to come in, and there you can see, as Steve mentioned, the exhaustion setting in. 4 or 5 guys taking a nap, a couple pacing, and one, knowing he's on camera, now going to show his stamina and get up and walk away from us. And right behind us, the 51 car, the Chrysler, has just made its pit stop, and they are just doing a routine stop, fuel, and they'll be back out on the way. No driver change down there, but certainly we're seeing signs of exhaustion amongst some of these crews. They've done numerous pit stops, and of course been going at it in the heat. And of course today's temperatures are actually supposed to get warmer than yesterday afternoon temperatures. So by the end of the day, these guys are just going to be beat.
But it has all gone very smoothly so far for them, hasn't it?
Alan, I'd just like to chat with Steve a moment. Steve, I know you were in the village yesterday looking around there, and that's all part of this wonderful Le Mans experience. But when I was up there, I spotted something very close to your heart. A big Pro-Stock dragster machine. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that, and I have to tell you, that whole village experience, I think I underestimated when I said there were 10 or 15,000 people. In fact, being an old promoter and occasionally inflating a crowd figure, I said, there's no way there's 250,000 people at Le Mans. I think there may be 300 this year with the weather. And you'd have to be here 3 days to see everything that exists. I mean, there's exhibitions inside buildings, all kinds of things you can for absolutely free. There's even a go-kart track. They had to close it about 2 this morning. The fans lined up with them slightly overserved, and we're really capable of driving the go-karts. But all in all, I have to tell you, I am so very glad that I made this trip, and I hope I can make it again.
Steve, you didn't make it to the fairground, did you? Because there's some pretty unusual sights there. Alan knows all about those.
Yeah, Alan, I didn't. What's up there, Alan?
Well, when I went to the fairground, they used to have all sorts of things there, some of which I'm afraid I can't tell you about on television, but you have to come here and see it yourself. By the way, we're at the Arnage corner here. There's been an off, I think. I don't know whether it's a big one or a small one, but there's grass and gravel and kitty litter generally, and there's been a problem there. I don't know who it was. I haven't seen it, but there's something happened at Arnage. They were sweeping it up earlier. And also, we saw the BMW car number 15 being pushed into its garage. It's obviously got some fairly serious problems. I think we're going to have a replay of what happened at Arnage.
Well, that is of course, the car which we've now seen in the pits, isn't it?
Well, that explains it, yes. I mean, that's the BMW owned by Thomas Bashir. That was a fairly heavy old off. They brought it into the pits and they put it in the garage. Could just be, with a bit of luck, just a routine check. I mean, as you say, that's a Williams, Sir Frank Williams built car. It's a pretty solid old bit of kit. And hopefully, even though it had a good strike in the side, it'll live to continue the fight.
I think it was Jean-Marc Gounod.
Yeah, well, he's the quickest of those drivers,
of course he is. And Frank Biegler still leading this race. You know, Frank is not used to these sort of cars. He's very recent in them. All his career, he's raced saloons. He's won the British Touring Car Championship. He's won the Italian Touring Car Championship. He's won, of course, his home German Touring Car Championship. And only 2 years ago did he ever race a car with an open top, apart from in the very early days of his career. He raced in Formula 3, of course, like most European racers.
Well, he's doing a mighty job for Audi now. He's in the lead. He's on 242 laps. The second-placed Audi, car number 9, is 2 minutes 28 seconds behind them. Well, that's increasing. And the third Audi is on 241 laps, comfortably behind. That's car number 7. But they're still cruising around at pretty reasonable speeds there. I mean, car number 7's last lap was a 3:42, car number 9 did a 3:43, and car number 8 did a 3:45. So they're still comfortably competitive, and in fact, well ahead of the Cadillac and the Courage.
Look at this, Alan, though, this Porsche here. Look at that left front wheel towing out that, well, he's maybe hit something or bounced over the curb.
Oh, he's hit something hard. That's got massive negative camber on it. Negative's where the top of the wheel tilts in as opposed to tilting out. Look, the tar's punctured, it's flat. He's cruising along there at quite reasonable speed, so it's obviously recoverable. But if he's, funnily enough, the wheel itself looks all right, so he's clouted something hard.
Yeah, he's got a puncture. This is the Belgian car, the number 80 car, which is currently in 28th place. Haven't talked much about that one. Not quite sure where that one came from, Alan, because at the test day, I never saw that machine. All those drivers who are all new to Le Mans, and sensibly has put the winkers on to warn people that he is going very slowly. Of course, he's got to hug the inside there, but of course it'll take people a little bit off their line, particularly the quick people.
Well, the great thing about driving a Porsche at Le Mans is that you know that if it's possible to get back in the race just by supplying new bits and pieces, Porsche will be there to help you. They've got their customer truck here. It's full of lovely goodies that fit GT3 cars, and as this car comes into the pits, a Porsche person, might even be Jürgen Barth himself, will leap up, have a look at what's there, get on his little walkie-talkie, talk to the truck, and he will say, he needs a new upright, we needs a new wheel, we needs a new wishbone, and clack, 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 it comes flying out the van, and as it goes onto your car, of course, your account is debited, but...
Yes, click, click, click.
Yes.
Yes, Porsche do certainly look after their customers, of course. They did develop a car which we thought might be racing here, a prototype car. Alan McNish drove it last year and then he decided to can that project, which was a big disappointment. We thought they may come back with a prototype with a V8 engine, incidentally, but it ran, but it's never got to race.
Yeah, he's coming through Indianapolis. Oh, he's come through Indianapolis, he's coming into Arnage. There's the DAMS Cadillac there, passing. If that tar stays on, then he'll be okay, but if it should decide to pop off, he'll have a problem. But he's going slow enough not to overheat the tar. Obviously, that tar, fully punctured, no air in it, is going to run very, very hot indeed. And that is not a problem to a car, providing the tread doesn't detach from the tar and start flailing around inside, chewing up bodywork and everything else in the way. You can even slice right through a piece of Dash 3 brake air-equipped hose or something, then you have a problem. But he's driving it very cleverly.
Just seeing the corner workers there waving their flags, and of course thousands of marshals around here of several different nationalities as well, Alan. There's quite a lot of Brits here. I met a policeman who's also a marshal here.
Oh, there's a lot of Brits here, that's for sure. This has always been very, very popular amongst the Brits. There are thousands of Brits here, Andrew.
Yes, well, that's certainly the case, and here at Le Mans the race continues into the morning here. It's now coming up to 8 o'clock on the Audis. Yes, you guessed it, they're first, they're second, they're third, but the Cadillac, that's still fourth. We'll stay at Le Mans.
You are back at Le Mans live on this truly wonderful, bright, sunny, clear day. It's coming up to 8 o'clock in the morning here. A lot of people just getting up for the first time. A lot of them been up most of the night. And I tell you something interesting, there's church services going on and people having breakfast. It's a lovely, sunny Sunday morning.
Yeah, let's just look round the circuit. Just remind you, of course, up the hill after the pits to the Dunlop curve, under the bridge, then diving down towards Tete Rouge, a very difficult corner, and then driving out of there along the Mulsanne Straight, the two chicanes, the first one to the right, the second one to the left, and then over the hump, the hard braking down to Mulsanne, through the Mulsanne, a very fast bit down to the Indianapolis corner, slightly back that, and then the sprint into Arnage, the slowest corner where we just saw the BMW go off. Then hurtling down towards the most technical part of the circuit, the Porsche curves, followed by the Ford curves. This wonderful Le Mans circuit here in Western France. What a track it is. And I think we just see the speedy car, which is linked. Oh, yes, a big problem with the left rear there on the speedy Courage, the Judd-powered car. And
exactly what he doesn't want, though. Look, see, that tire is flailing away. This is what we talked about earlier. You see, it's going to chew up the bodywork. Oh, he's gone off, you see. Now, that's the best thing to do, is to get off, because that will chew up that bodywork and cause him no end of problems. Now, whether he can struggle it back to the pits or not, time will tell.
That was weird, because it just suddenly turned sharp right, and I don't know if he did that deliberately or not, but...
I think he did, because you see, he's worried about causing too much damage. I think he probably wants to get out and examine it and maybe get some advice over the radio, or have people come and tell him what to do. At least he's pulled off, he's got out of the way, so that's a yellow flag situation, but it is not a pace car situation. Although you can see the piece of tread there, that's a piece of slick tread lying in the middle of the road. So as long as that gets seen by somebody, it shouldn't cause any harm.
Trying to spot who's in the car, whether it's Philip Gash, of course, is the team owner as the Conrad Porsche comes in. That's the one that Tommy Kendall's been driving, incidentally, or whether Gary Formato perhaps is in the car. But fueling up this Conrad Porsche, or the Conrad Lola, the car for the three Dutch drivers, went out quite early in this race. But meanwhile, this Porsche soldiers on. This, of course, is what they call, it is a GT2 Porsche, but of course it's in the GTS category against all the American muscle, and these days Porsche just can't match up with that. But meanwhile, Guy Hobbs has been checking up on that 675 LM category, Guy.
I thought it's time we updated on the 675 category. We're with Ian Dawson, who is the team manager for the all-Canadian entry, and at this point, Ian, a three-lap lead, feeling fairly comfortable, but you've been doing this for years, and you've been here before.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, you've been running really well with the car. You know, we're a bit of unknown territory with the Lola, and unfortunately we had a long break for about 2 hours with an output shaft failure. Managed to get that done. Other than that, you know, it's really run like clockwork. Really pleased. We've just got to keep it together for the next 6 hours.
Your biggest threat was probably going to come from the Rock Volkswagen team, but both of those guys went out fairly early. Now there's competition from the 35 and the 36 car. What's the plan? Just keep running the same pace?
Yeah, well, obviously the Volkswagen is an extremely strong package. I think we've probably run under half the catering budget, so I'm quite pleased with, you know, what effort Multimatic and Lola have put together for this program. And yeah, you know, if we can get it to the end, I'll be really pleased.
All right, good luck to you. Who's in the car right now?
John Graham's in at the moment. He's getting out in a minute and Scott Maxwell gets back in. Greg Wilkins has just finished the double stint.
All right, the all-Canadian driver lineup, and we'll check in with Ian. They're leading the 675 LM class right now. And then right behind, and next to them is the garage pit where they are waiting for the speedy car to come around after that contact. And we'll wait here and stay tuned on that one for you too.
Yeah, I know Ian Dawson. I drove for him once here. He's a skillful man. He's doing a very good job for them. And I think personally that 675 category here is where a future winner could come from. It's a very, very promising category. But meanwhile, that Courage has got going. But just look at that tar tread flailing around. It's already hacked up the rear body, and it's causing a lot of damage because you can see it actually spinning. You see, it's a very, very tricky position for a driver to be in. He's come to another halt, I think, because he's in first gear. He'll be overheating if he's not careful, and it's a very, very nasty position to be in.
Alan, do you think that's the fast right-hander just before Indianapolis there? Just trying to work out where he is.
No, I don't think.
Oh dear!
Oh, we have another tyre. Definitely, he's probably gone off there.
Is that a tyre, or is it a blown turbo or something?
Well, it's only coming out of one bank. It could be, absolutely. It could be a blown turbo.
Oh, and another one off.
Oh, and that's a Chrysler gone off there. That's number 53. That's third place in the GTS category. He was in 10th place overall. You can see the black marks on the road there. There's a lot of stuff happening. This is typical Le Mans, providing all these surprises early in the morning. I think that looks like rubber smoke to me rather than engine smoke, but we'll soon find out when it comes into the pits. Limping in, but it's come in. The important thing is to get your car back to the pits. Oh, look at the damage on the front of that car. He's gone off, clouted something hard, obviously the guardrail, spun around, come across the track and come to a halt in the kitty litter, which is absolutely what it's for. Now, getting that car out of there and getting it back to the pits is going to be the name of the game. Tricky, Andrew.
Yeah, that's the car that David Donoghue drives with Nee Amarin, the Portuguese man, and also Anthony Beltoise, the youngster, the son of Jean-Pierre Beltoise. And another car in trouble is the 79, which is being pushed back into the pits for some work. So plenty for Guy Hobbs in a while to go and check out.
Yeah, that car's in 30th place overall. It's well down in the GT3 category, but nonetheless, even if you can't win the class, come second or third and get a podium in your class, what you want to do here...
Just look at this picture. You can see the black marks before the corner, and then he's cut across the grass, and then he's spun into here. You can see the black marks where he's come from. I don't know what he did there, but he's obviously hit something, maybe hit another car, and they're going to dig him out of here.
He could have hit another car, that's absolutely right. Meanwhile, there's our Courage parked up. He's wondering what to do with it. The engine still picks up, runs, but he's got that flapping around rear tyre, doing him no good at all.
I think it was Gary Formato, quite a tall figure. Philip Gash is very short. It might have been him.
Well, the driver's still aboard this 53, of course. So he's hoping, I suppose, if they pull him out onto the hard just behind here, he can brew up and get underway. They're allowed to pull him out the way, of course. They're not allowed to push start him. Rather distraught-looking lady there, obviously something to do with that car. She's seen what's going on the monitors, and that could be her husband, boyfriend, brother inside.
One of the things that I really don't like about Formula One, and I've been at Formula One races for 30 years, is the fact that if they even put one wheel in the kitty litter, they're out of the race. You know, the fans want to see these cars going around. I don't understand why Mr. Eccleston, you know, thinks that if they go off into the sand, that's it, and they're a retirement, a DNF. I think it's totally stupid.
He is a law unto himself, of course, and if he decides that's how it is to be, that's how it is, isn't it?
Well, yes, absolutely.
I think we'll get into that conversation in this particular programme, but it would be interesting to find out what has actually happened to these cars. It's quite concerning, but you see, this is typical Le Mans. It throws up exactly this type of thing. It doesn't look too bad to me. He's knocked a huge hole in there, but he's limping a bit, but he's going to make it back to the pits, I think, Andrew.
Yes, the number 53 car in 10th place is going to make it. Well, after the break, of course, we will find out exactly what happens to that car, but at the moment, it is still Audi's first, Audi second, Audi third. Then we've got a Cadillac, Garage, 2 Panozes, then 2 Vipers, 3 Vipers indeed. We'll be back in a moment.
We're back live at Le Mans Speed Vision, and all heck has broken loose in the Viper garage as the 53 car went into the gravel gully. The crew sat in here watching the monitor, which is up in the corner with our picture. When they saw the car come out of the gravel, they got prepared fast. They got brand new carbon fiber hood for the car. They got every conceivable part they could need. If they needed an and 52 car. The car does not appear to be all that badly beaten up. It's very tough to see the front end, and we can't get in their way. We've already been pushed out a couple of times. So all in all, look at this scramble going on here. Oh, man, we talked about how their pit stops were so perfect they were on the edge of being boring. Boy, there isn't nothing boring about this. Incredible.
I had a look around that Chrysler pit earlier. You know, they have a lot of spare bits and pieces there. They've got several spare snouts, just the nose bit, spare bonnets. I think, Guy, have you got an update on that 79 for us? Well, perhaps he has. We'll join him a little later if he's got an update.
Meanwhile, we are watching Alan McNish. He has been for a long time the fastest man out there, lapping in the 3:37 mark. The other 2 Audis are in the 3:38s, and they are, of course, the 3 fastest cars here at Le Mans.
What he wants to do, I suppose, is try to catch up the lead car sufficiently so that Dr. Ulrich makes his decision sometime around lunchtime. It's McNish that's in the lead. But I think what you said about Frank Biella being a favourite son may well come into the equation.
There's also the situation if he can get on the same lap, of course, and there's a yellow, he might be able to close right up.
That's another very good point, you see, the way this race has been going with all these surprise offs. It only takes one of these cars to actually land up in the middle of the track, and the pace car will come out again, or maybe 2 of them will come out, and we'll see a repetition of what we saw at the beginning of this race, of course, which will cause problems. But at the moment, the lead Audi, that's car number 8, is on lap 247, and the second place car, number 9, is on lap 246. And third place car number 7 is also on lap 246, and it is now 2 minutes 48 seconds behind the second place car number 9. So really there's nothing in it up at the front end. Anything could happen, and meantime down in 4th place is car number 3, the DAMS Cadillac, 239 laps completed. Now that's what, 8 laps behind the leaders. However, it's hanging in there, it's doing a very good job, and this would not be the first time, Andrew, we have known all 3 factory cars go out with the same kind of problem. If there's a niggling problem at the base of these Audis, it could show up at any time. They could all go out with the same thing.
Well, absolutely correct. The lead car, I believe, is driven at the moment. There you see the red and white helmet of Emanuele Pirro, who has been around racing for a long time, raced in Formula 3000, of course, and then had several years in Formula 1, drove for Benetton. He was a McLaren test driver. Alan McNish now peels off and comes down the pit road. The cars sound really rough because they're on the rev limiter that stops them overspeeding here. And little Alan McNish, who comes from the borders town of Dumfries. So many fine motorsportsmen come from the Scottish borders. People like Jimmy Clark, Andrew Cowan, the great rally driver, of course. And you know, this town of Dumfries. So I was there just the other day, and do you know what else they do there? They've got Alan McNish, and they've also made the best green wellies in the world. Now, maybe you can explain to our American viewers what green wellies are.
Well, I will in a minute, but meanwhile, McNish, whilst he's being fueled up, is staying in the car. He's going to do a double stint. And actually, McNish's parents are here. He's got his mum and his dad here, and a very nice lady, I think maybe his girlfriend as well, also here cheering him on. I met them all earlier, and when you look at Alan McNish's dad, there's no doubt that he is Alan McNish's dad. They're more or less dead ringers for each other, but surprisingly, his father does look a little older. But they're all here to support him and will him on. Interestingly,
Alan McNish, of course, was a star karting name. In the year that Ayrton Senna won his World Karting Championship, third place was Alan McNish. Where was it? It was on the karting track here at Le Mans.
Good God. Isn't that amazing?
Yep.
And we're meanwhile back with car number 53. It was 3rd in class, and it's back inside its box still, and they're trying to work out what to do. I thought that front end was deranged myself. In fact, it obviously is. Otherwise, they would have patched it up and got it out the way. And I think that yes, it's the front left-hand side that's got deranged suspension. They've got to do something about it. They can't send that car back out with its suspension out of true. This goes back to the email we had earlier. It should be that the pickup points for the suspension haven't been moved with a bit of luck, so that their bolt-on spare corner will go straight on there, and the suspension setting will automatically be the correct one. But if for any reason the suspension pickup points have been moved, they've been biffed out of true, obviously they haven't got time to rejiggle this, so they will then alter the suspension and do some kind of crude setup just to give it a bit of toe in and the right camber, so that the car will handle well enough to be able to struggle on and hopefully keep up this Viper 1-2-3 in the GTS class.
Thanks, Alan. There are 248 laps of this magnificent circuit now in the book. It is still, of course, Audi's. The number 8 car is first, then the number 9 car, and then the number 7 car, followed by Cadillac. It's all to play for still at Le Mans.
You know, weekends like this one are exactly the reason why Speed Vision News Race Week was launched. With just about every major series competing, Race Week is the only place to get highlights, results, and analysis of Le Mans, NASCAR, Formula One, kart, Trans Am, IRL, NHRA, bikes. Oh, well, the list just goes on and on. Join Bill Patrick and Bob Varsha at 7:30 p.m. Eastern and again at 8:30 Pacific for the most comprehensive recap of this week's racing action.
Well, Alan, we're 2/3 of the way through this race, actually quarter of an hour past 2/3 of the way past this Le Mans here. Well, everybody said that Audi were the favourite. They have absolutely dominated this race. We did, of course, early on have the David Brabham, the Mario Andretti Panoz up amongst them, but now it's all about Audis, and they do have a big lead, 7 laps.
Oh, here's 53 coming out.
Oh, 53 coming out, yeah.
They've got it out. They fixed it. So they've actually readjusted the whole of that front left-hand corner, stuck a new bonnet or hood on it, and in fact, I think, Steve, you got an update on the spot.
Well, the driver, Emmerich, never came out of the car, and even though they have all the damage they hope fixed from that excursion into the gravel pit, now they still have to fuel the car. They've taken care of the tires. They've taken care of the front end. What's going to be interesting, obviously, Alan, is how well is this car going to handle? What kind of a Viper does this driver now have under him? And only the first couple of laps will tell.
You're absolutely right, Steve. The first 2 laps will tell, because the tires will have cooled down a little bit. They probably got new wheels on the front there, of course. He'll spend the first lap exploring the handling of the car, getting those tires warm, and then even if this car isn't handling quite as perfectly as it was, the driver will drive around it. That's the great thing about a skillful Le Mans driver. He picks his car up, he gets back in the race, and he drives round any minor problems he's got. If it's something serious, obviously got to come in, or it's something that might affect the safety of the driver. But they wouldn't have sent him out there if they weren't 101% happy that that car is fit to be driven at race speeds at Le Mans.
Well, now we go on board with Keiichi Sakiya, who, of course, finished here second last year, you know, running with Katayama and Suzuki and the one Toyota that made it home. And he's a regular of the Japanese GT category, which is very popular. He actually drives for the ex-Formula One driver, Oguri Suzuki, in a Honda-backed team. And there he is working away with his green and chrome crash helmet. So that's Sakiya, who's been racing for many years. This is actually his 7th Le Mans, but he's actually been motor racing since 1977, a very experienced man.
Yeah, the Japanese actually, I have to say, are great stalwarts here at Le Mans. Very, very fidèle, as the French would say. They love turning out here, and we've got TVSI sponsoring cars. This is a very, very popular race indeed back in Japan. In fact, I even remember the agent for Lola Cars used to be called the Le Mans Company back in Japan. And Steve, I think you managed to get down with number 52 there?
Yeah, they kind of look all alike after a while, though, don't they? Well, it appears that maybe Chrysler's going to have a difficulty fulfilling their dream here at Le Mans, finishing these cars sequentially. The problems with the 53 car, maybe he had a big enough lead, I'm not sure. But they're taking no chances with the 52 car, putting some goop on the front of the car there just to, in fact, they're taking tape off to let a little more air into the radiator as the morning warms up.
Well, that all looked pretty routine to me, but of course the Corvette number 64 has now picked off the Chrysler Viper number 53. It's 1 lap ahead The leading Chrysler in the GTS class is on lap 227. The second Chrysler is only just under 9 seconds behind on lap 227, but the Corvette, which is now third in that class, is in fact on lap 223. So it's got quite a long way to go. It'll either have to wait for the other Vipers to pack up, or maybe they'll speed up. Meanwhile, the leader is coming into the pits, hopefully for just another routine pit stop.
Frank Bieler is, as you say, coming into the pits. This looks as if it isn't going to be a driver change. There are some tyres there. It'll be interesting to see what they actually do, whether they put those on. I think they're just there in case they need new tyres. They can obviously drive now with this big lead over the rest of the field to conserve the tyres.
Yeah, they're not going to put tyres on, otherwise the man with the jackhammer would be absolutely spot over those centre lock wheel nuts, ready to undo them the moment it went up on jacks. I think they're going to fuel it, brew up and go.
Off it goes, Alan. I'd like to just talk now about the number 57 car. That's the Dutch machine. That's another Viper. That's the best of the private big American muscle cars, driven by Hezemans. That's Mike Hezemans, David Hart, who's a businessman, and Johnny Hugenholtz. Well, this race continues into what is going to be a very, very hot afternoon here at Le Mans. Stay tuned with us here on Speed Vision.
Being an inveterate souvenir collector, I have scoured the grounds looking for just the right item. And it's not in any of the tents that sell the caps and the T-shirts and the usual stuff. It's right here in the ACO Club, the outfit that organizes Le Mans. You'd think pricey, huh? Au contraire. What do you see? Some truly unique stuff at very, very affordable prices. In fact, right over here. I'm going to have these before I leave. Pardon me, ma'am. Thank you. These binoculars right here, you'd think $200 or $300. How about in U.S. coin, about 33 bucks? Look at this stuff. And oh, how about a watch? Can I sell you a watch, mister? Check these beauties out. And some of these are as little as $27 to about $56. Just beautiful. And garments, clothing, apparel, here's things you won't find in any of those tents. Just exquisite merchandise, beautifully designed, all featuring the 24 Hours du Le Mans logo. And the coup de grace, for me anyway, is the art. All beautifully framed, and most of it priced under $200. And here you don't just get a souvenir, you get a keepsake, something you'll enjoy for years to come.
I have to hand it to the old Automobile Club de l'Ouest to take advantage of a merchandising offer, because basically that never used to happen, but they realize they can make a lot of money out of it, so that's precisely what they're doing. And the stuff they offer, as Steve so rightly says, is actually very well valued. I went in there and bought myself a little tiny radio. It cost me 99 francs. Well, that's under 10 pounds. That's about, what, 15 bucks, I would say. And that's a sweet little radio. It works very nicely. So, in fact, that's my souvenir from this race. What did you get, Andrew?
I got a beautiful Hermes silk put my teeth back in, silk tie. Now, I bought one last year, and it cost me about $40. I thought it would be about the same this year. I signed the credit card, and then I realized I'd paid over $100 for this tie. But perhaps my favorite souvenir was given to me by the Reynard PR lady yesterday. It's a T-shirt with the Reynard sports racing car on the front, and you press the nose of it, and a noise comes out of this of the engine of this car starting up and then it driving off. It's absolutely fabulous. I might put it on for the end of the show.
Yeah, I think you should do that. Well, I'm sorry to hear you spent too much money on your scarf, but of course...
A tie.
Sorry, a tie. There is one born every minute. It looks like that was your minute.
Some famous gendarmes with those wonderful hats.
Do you know that the most expensive part of this whole Le Mans 24-hour race is the bill for the gendarmes? It's absolutely monumental. I think they're on at least double, if not triple time to be here, and you cannot run this race without the gendarmes, so it's really a huge payday for those guys today. This is Le Mans' finest on duty, and I have to say they do a very good job, because without them the crowds would get out of hand.
But not only the crowds, because they have to shut off the roads and then man all the diversions around the circuit, because there are people that don't want to come to this race. They want to go from Le Mans down towards the Loire Valley, which is what this road does.
Yeah, that's right. We're watching here Pescarolo's hot rod. This is the Courage that we've been talking about, fitted with this new Peugeot engine. And I think I can safely say that if this car finishes this race well, then we'll be hearing a lot more from Peugeot in the future. Steve, what have you got for us?
Well, I had a couple of gendarmes. You can see them walking away as soon as I pointed the camera at them, because not only they're wearing guns, right next to the gun, they're carrying their own personal little cameras, getting memories of their own. But boy, did they scatter like cockroaches when I pointed this Ikigami at them.
Well, it's an opportunity for them as well, of course. I mean, if you happen to be on duty here, you're being paid very well indeed, and why not, to actually come and watch the race, which of course is a bit of a treat for them. Guy, I think have you found the GT leader with it for us? Guy?
Yes, I do. We're just over the wall here with Tony Dow and Bob Wallach, who's just come out of the garage. Tony, I just talked to you a few moments ago off the air, and we kind of joked there's still a long way to go. And you're just talking to Bob, trying to give him his first 24 hours Le Mans victory. Are the hopes high?
I'm sorry, I completely missed all of that.
I say you got to be fairly excited, although there's still a long way to go. Are the hopes high at this point?
No, I mean, the same as when we started. You know, there is so long to go, and there's just so many parts in a race car and so many things that can go on. It isn't over till she sings, is it, you know?
You got a 5-lap lead. That's a pretty good cushion. The 5-lap lead is a pretty good cushion.
Yeah, we've had a very good race car all weekend, and a race like this, the only way you beat someone is if you can pressure them, and we had enough of an advantage with the whole car driver team combination that we could just sit in front of everybody and not get under pressure. So a lot of things that went on allowed us not to look over our shoulder.
All right, now let me step over here and get a word with Bob, of course. At the top of our show, Bob, we pointed out you're still looking for your first 24 hours of Le Mans win. Getting a little bit closer. Are you feeling any better?
I feel okay, but I'm sorry, you're wrong. I won here 3 times already.
Now, you're driving with a couple of young guys, and over the weekend we've been talking to Tony and a few other guys, and they said instead of them getting older, it seems like you've been getting younger and your lap times have been getting quicker and quicker.
No, I'm not going quicker. The car is very fast, and I was just lapping consistently, fast enough to pull away from the opposition from other GT3 cars, but not too fast to make the car work too hard. It's just a fast, long-distance race, but if necessary, the car is fast enough for us to be able to go faster.